Testing, testing. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Hey, 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 come on, come on, come on. Hello, gang. I gotta get some sound going here. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Let's make sure everything's turned on. Whoa, there we go. Bad connection. All right, hello, good connection. Hello, Barbara. Hey, thank you. Thank you so much for that nice video you sent me. Although you gave me a heart attack. When the video started, my packaging was all torn apart, and I thought, oh no. Anyway, so glad to hear it got there. All right, friends, this is Daily Art Adventure number 694. If this is your first time, you're only 693 broadcasts late. Better late than, as they say. Let me turn you around very briefly. I had very much hoped to finish this painting last Thursday, I think it was. I can't remember. Anyway, there's approximately the view, except that the blue umbrellas have been taken down. So I was out here painting, no, maybe it was Wednesday, last week. Anyway, yeah, because Thursday and Friday I did the eagle. That's right. Anyway, good to be back. And I am all the way, let me try to get some decent exposure here so it's not all dark. Really hard to broadcast a vertical painting on a horizontal screen. I'm looking and thinking. So I'm about 4 stages back from the end of this painting. Well, which means technically I actually can't finish it tonight because but I can get frightfully close. That's what I'd like to do, because I'm normally these days holding out to do an additional glaze after everything's dry. So I'd like to finish tonight everything except the final glaze. All right, so the subject matter here is intense blue canopies, and you can't see it at the moment, but down here there's a bunch of people. In fact, just for fun, I haven't counted. I removed one, but some of my listeners last week, I had three figures in a row, and they looked like a trio, so I took one out. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I don't know if that's a person or not 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. After I got home, I realized these two were too small. So either I have to redraw them, make them big, or I just have to make their heads bigger so they're children. And just a minute ago, I said, yeah, having kids, that'd be kind of fun. It'd be kind of fun to have kids sitting at the table with their mom. Oh, man, they're bad. Oh, and there's a figure there too. Okay, tell you what, I wasn't going to start down here, but all of a sudden I feel the need. And let's go ahead and get their heads bigger. So see, they can be small people, but they can't have small heads. So if they have bigger heads, then they'll read as children. So I don't know how many figures there are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, question mark, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And for those of you who were with me last week, you realize that is some considerable artistic license. Now, wait, a couple weeks ago I was here. The painting that Barbara got, there really were as many as 12 out here, maybe 14. So yeah, so it's not completely fictitious. It's just that last week when I was here, there certainly weren't ever 16 people out here. All right, now let me go into the part of the painting that I want to do. Nice to have you guys. Hello, Kay. Good to have you on board. So the last thing I did on this painting was pencils. And as always, at the end of the pencil stage, there's way too much pencil in the painting, way too much edgy, hard edge stuff. But not to worry, because a lot of that is about to get eliminated or diminished in this. So I'm in my first, I'm having to get more precise with my language these days. And I'm happily, why don't I just finish this at home? Well, frankly, if the weather had been horrible, 100 degrees or big chance of pouring, I could finish at home. I'm certainly no stranger to finishing paintings in the comfort of my studio. But if it's at all possible, I definitely prefer to finish on location. Just something about the energy of being on the spot. I believe I paint better when I'm out on location. I certainly paint with more dispatch, with more speed. And of course, you guys watching me, that also helps raise my energy level, if you will. So I'm less likely to dawdle. Do you know that word, dawdle? Quit your dawdling. I don't know how it's spelled, D-A-W-D-L-E, I would imagine. Anyway, I don't dawdle quite so much when I'm on the sidewalk or on the street and when you guys are watching. So thank you very much for your service. Of course, I'm just using you to my own ends. You guys are there to help make me paint better. Thank you very much for your service. Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. Be careful, I says to myself. If English is your second language, sorry, I'm intentionally butchering English again. Careful, I says to myself. Don't just turn off your brain and commence to painting. Don't just turn off your brain and paint. Now, what I mean is, like in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, this building is yellow brick, and it would be real easy for me just to put my head down and plow forward till all the yellow brick is painted, right? Oh, believe me, I've made that mistake many, many times. That's why I says to myself, self, I says, you be careful now. Don't you quit thinking and just commence to painting. You keep thinking the whole time that you're painting. Think and paint. That's what we call it around here. We call it think and paint. as opposed to just paint. You just paint, you're a mess up waiting to happen. Keep thinking with your eyes. Keep thinking visually. Not logically per se. Logic would say the whole building is yellow, paint the dang thing yellow. That's sort of logical, you see? But it's not visual. Visual is you're paying attention to every single mark. Every single mark you're thinking about. Does that look like is that a good mark? All right, at the moment, I'm liking that quite a bit. Huh. Now, it's interesting building. The trim on these windows up here is actually almost black, very, very, very dark brown. But it's more reflection of the blue sky than anything else. So I'm not sure what color to paint it. I sort of wish that it were white or light color anyway. Because I think it would look better in the painting. And of course, yes, I have the liberty to make that change if I so choose, but I don't think I do choose this time. I'm going to paint it dark brown, which means actually I should have done this earlier, but it didn't get done. And while I'm at it, this lantern is actually black, but the color it's on my brushes right now will do just fine. So you get, don't you? You get dark with transparent paint. That's what I'm doing right now. I want some stuff to be darker. So I achieve that darkness with transparent paint, behaving just like a watercolorist. Okay? Boy, I say this so many times, but again, for some of you, not everybody knows this rule. Even some decent painters don't know this rule. And I'm going to be so arrogant, which will come as no surprise to some of you. I'm going to be so arrogant so as to say even some painters who are better than I am don't know this rule. Okay, so who am I? What in the world am I thinking? How can I be so arrogant as to, give advice to somebody who's better than I am? Well, I'll answer that question if you want. What gives me the nerve? What gives me the chutzpah? Do you like the way I said that? Chutzpah. What gives me the chutzpah to hello, I'm painting. And I'm broadcasting.
Oh, you're broadcasting?
Yeah.
Now. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I was just checking out your work. It looks
Thank
amazing.
you. Appreciate it.
Wow, and the whole city is like nice, man.
Thank you.
So intense and so has a variety and
Yeah, thanks. So it's this right here, right? You notice,
exactly.
What's your name?
Hassan.
Hassim?
Yes, sir.
I'm Dan. Good to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. I love how you did people.
Thank you.
It's nice.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Wow.
Thanks. Yeah, absolutely. You certainly may. All right, so I was saying, how could I be so arrogant as to, correct people that are better than me? Well, the real simple answer to that question, and I say it, with all sobriety. Hey, Michael.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm back again.
Nice to see you.
I got rained out last time we were here.
Yeah, I see.
I didn't finish the painting, so
Rewatch the video.
I'm back. Did you really?
Watch them take off.
Did you?
I'll show you later when you watch the video.
You mean the security? Your security?
Yeah, it's right there.
Oh man, I didn't see them. Of course, I was too busy grabbing my stuff. But
Yeah, but that's the thing is that you were on the move.
yeah,
Loading up.
yeah,
Within 5 minutes, you were like almost there.
yeah, yeah.
And then,
Phew, man, that was
and then
crazy.
gone.
Yeah, yeah,
Everything loaded in.
yeah. That's man. I was glad that guy came up and told me a storm was coming. I didn't even know, and we didn't get much warning. Yeah, it sure did. So I do hope to finish tonight, or within minutes of it anyway. But thank you for your hospitality, and no, you don't need to put your your umbrellas up unless you decide to. No, not on a Monday. I don't imagine, eh?
Well, I like having them out all night.
Yeah.
Bring them in after lunch, but keep them out there, then it's a little more attention.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm going to paint them as if they're there, of course. Yeah, getting there. Most of the hard work is over, honestly, on this painting, so it's not too stressful. Mop-up operation, shall we? Well, I already got rained on one time. It could rain. I looked, the weather map my weather map doesn't show anything. Completely empty sky. Does your weather map agree with mine? All right, so back to the issue of dark with transparent, light with white, and not everybody knows that rule. All right, how can I have the nerve to? Well, first of all, I do it soberly. I don't tromp around where angels fear to tread. But my main answer is because of the greatest painters in history essentially painted this way. You know, the Rembrandts of history, if you will, followed this rule. And I could get very historical and explain to you why artists stopped painting with layers of transparent color in the 20th century, but I don't want to get into that right now. I've done this before, but I'll take a moment to explain to you why this matters and what happens if you use opaque paint to get darker. Okay, and again, forgive me.
Blended right in.
Foxhole Willie, I love it. The only problem I have correcting somebody better than me is finding them. That's hilarious. Oh, that's hilarious. B-O-Y. Okay, so here's the logic that some painters go through that causes them to use opaque paint to get darker with, okay? Now please understand that in one sense, B-O-Y-L, on one hand, to say that they're getting dark with opaque paint is sort of to say that they're getting dark with white paint. In other words, if you put white paint into your colors to make it opaque, right? So if it's opaque, usually it's because it has white in it, or yellow ochre, sure. Why would anybody put white paint in their mix? Well, I'm gonna tell that exactly why they do that. And as I say often, how do I know what makes me so all-fired sure that I understand what people are thinking? Well, it's because I've made all these mistakes myself. Boyle and Pierce. That's the words those are the letters I'm painting. That's why I'm saying Boyle and Pierce in the middle of my sentence. Here's the logic. Here's the way. So let's say, like, I've been making this sign darker. Correct? Correct. Huh. That's interesting. Well, but some painters would say, yeah, but I don't want to make it like a black, right? So they sort of say it with that tone of voice. That's important. They say, well, I don't want to make it like black. So they take their dark paint, and what do? They add a little bit of white to it so that's not, black. Am I making sense? I feel like by saying it with that inflection, I'm trying to make clear the way they think, the way such a painter would think. I don't want it. I want it very dark, but not black. Right? You with me? Pearce. I'm going to run out of room here. I think this sign's about to get an extension because it's easier to add length to the sign than it is to redo my letters. Pearce. All right, so the way they think then, I don't want it, black. Are you tired of me saying it that way? So they say, so I'll add some white to this, just a little bit, they say, just a little bit, so that it's not, black. All right, so that's the thinking. That's why I'm going to say, forgive me, an immature painter might indeed make a part of their painting dark using white paint. Now I say it that way just to throw a shocker at you, because anybody with a little child would say, you make something dark using white paint? And I go, yeah, now you're seeing the absurdity of that. All right, so, and when you do that, it creates that muddy look. And if you want to hear, God help you if you want to hear more of this. But if you want to hear a better explanation of this very thing, then I have a video on YouTube. Don't go there now, but when this broadcast is over, I'm kidding. You can go there anytime you want. I have a broadcast, a video on YouTube. So just look for Dan Nelson Mud, because in that video, I explain what mud is and where it comes from. And it's about the misappropriation, the misuse of opacity, the misapplication of opaque color. It's when somebody uses opaque color to get darker. Now, let me hasten to say that my years of broadcasting on YouTube have run me into all kinds of interesting little pockets of ideas. And there are a couple other concepts in the art world about what mud is. And I had one in particular. If you go to that video, you can scroll down and find this comment of a man who's evidently reasonably intelligent, because he has a very fine vocabulary, and he proceeds to rip me a new one, ream me out, correct me in no uncertain terms, and lament my ignorance. And to tell you the truth, his comment threw me for quite the loop for quite a long time. All right, and I'll go ahead and tell you, he says, and now I will say to you, why does he say it? And I'll say, almost certainly because he had a teacher that told him this many, many, many years ago, and he believed his teacher, which very often teachers are worthy of believing. But not this one. Because they said that mud, now, okay, now maybe a little bit kinder. He said that mud is when you paint too many layers of wet oil paint on top of each other, and everything gets all smooshy and muddy, and your colors run together and get muddy. Okay, now I can understand somebody using that, using the word mud to define that situation, where you're painting a la prima, and you just pile up and pile and pile and pile more and more and more layers of paint. And your colors become muddy. So I will acknowledge that that certainly is a logical use of the word mud. But how can I say this? First of all, how can I say this nicely? Maybe I can't. No, I can. I promise I can. The reason I'm not going to use mud for that is because the solution to that problem, what problem? Piles and piles and piles of wet oil paint on your canvas so that everything gets mixed up and turns muddy. The reason I don't pay any attention to that particular problem or definition is because it is one that is easily avoided. I think of an episode, I'm showing my age here, but years and years and years ago, Bob Newhart had a skit, and it might have been a Carol Burnett, I can't remember. But anyway, he was a counselor. Of course, on the Bob Newhart show, he was playing a counselor all those years. But and his counsel was the same. Somebody would come in and tearfully pour out their guts and their heart to this psychologist, counselor person. And when they were all done spilling their guts, he would lean across the desk, frown deeply at the person in front of him and yell the word, stop, 2 words, yell the words, stop it. Anyway, it was supposed to be funny. But that's the image that comes to mind when I think about that particular definition of mud. Well, the fact is, it's real easy to not have that problem. The answer is, stop it. Don't do that. Just stop. Don't do that. That's dumb. Just don't do that. Stop. Okay, there's my deep sympathetic counsel to you for what to do if you have that kind of mud problem. It's like, that's stupid. Don't do that. Stop. Stop piling up layers and layers and layers of thick oil paint so that colors become muddy. All right. Did you appreciate the sensitivity with which I gave you that wonderful counsel? The kind of mud I'm talking about is frankly, I'll call it mystery mud. It's like, it's the problem that makes you scratch your head in wonderment. Like, something's wrong with this color right here, but I can't tell what it is. I don't really understand why this color looks, quote unquote, muddy. All right, that's mystery mud. That's the kind I care about. Why? Because you have to understand what it is. I remember so well, the year 2000 or might have been 99. Anyway, right around there, I did an illustration for an ad agency, and even though I'd been an illustrator for decades at that point, I did this particular series, 3 illustrations in oil paint. So it was, I had a great time. It was great fun, and one of the scenes, and it was sort of like fantasy painting. It was great fun. It was a great assignment, but in one of the paintings, it was like a bunch of knights in clashing weapons, storming through a wall, a gate, a castle. The view from inside the castle has all these marauding knights come crashing through the wall. And one of the horses, well, all the horses were brownish, light brown, dark brown, light brown, dark brown, so on. But one of the horses that had it was sort of I was aiming for sort of like a chestnut English red. I say that because it's, anyway, was a medium red. And for some reason, that in my painting, that dang horse just didn't look right. And for the life of me, I painted it 6 times over, sort of, over and over and over and over, trying to fix it. Never did fix it. It went to print, went to press in that condition. And it was fine. Nobody else noticed. But at the time, I did not know, honestly didn't know what I was doing wrong. And in fact, the answer now is quite simple. I had made, at one point in the process, I had made that horse darker. I had rendered it darker than it had been. And I used an opaque reddish brown paint to achieve this darkening process. That's it. That's what was wrong. I remember it clear as day. Clear as mud. Sorry, I should have said clear as mud. I remember, no, but it's not clear as mud. I remember it crystal clear. What was wrong with my painting? And the answer was I had used, and it was crazy. It was just driving me nuts. I could not figure out what was wrong. I mean, it was paint. All the horses were painted. All the knights were painted. It looked great. It was awesome, except for this one horse, just had this muddy, chalky. And some of you are saying, well, couldn't you just repaint it? Well, I did repaint it, but no. See, I didn't understand at the time. I didn't know about this rule, and so I kept repainting it with opaque paint. You see. I can't imagine now being that ignorant, but you know, I was a brand new oil painter at the time, and I just simply did not know what I was doing. I was a good drawer, you know. The horse was anatomically, everything was great, all except for just this chestnut brown color of this horse, and I kept thinking the problem was in the color or something, but it wasn't. It was the misapplication of opacity. And boy, I literally am never making that mistake again. And that's true, because now I know very well what not to do. Don't make that horse darker using an opaque paint. If you want to make it lighter, absolutely. You see, you get light with opaque paint and dark with transparent paint. All right. And some of you, I'm sorry, you've had to hear that little speech for the 14,000th time. Somebody out there needed to hear that for the first time, or maybe it made sense for the first time. And it came up because I was making this window, the window frame, darker. And I was, of course, using transparent color. And again, if you want to see a demonstration of this, a specific demonstration, then go. Thank you. Wow. Thank you. Go to Dan Nelson Mud. And the person who corrected me with great verbal skill is welcome to his opinion. You see, the problem is his definition of mud is easy to avoid. Just don't do it. But if you don't know this opaque rule, then you have to know the rule to know what's going on. Why does this look wrong? You say to yourself. And of course, as I said, I've just answered that question. So I slipped over into blue while I was talking there. And I guess I'll continue. I'm looking over my shoulder, trying to decide what color blue I want this sky to be, and I want these windows to be. Hey, so let's just imagine for a minute that after I get so far into this painting, I discover, again, that this blue is too bright. It's just, I want it darker. Then what do? Piece of cake, easy, easy peasy peasy. You glaze, okay? And Okay, you know what? I'm going to have to get historical here for a minute, because if you don't understand how we got in this mess, then you're liable not to take me as seriously as doggone it, you should be taking me seriously, right? Okay, if you don't know, I'll do this really quickly. So, and again, forgive me if you've heard it before. You go eat supper and come back. I'll be done by the time you get back. All right, a number of things happened in the 20th century. I mean, in the 19th. I meant to say 19th. A whole bunch of things happened in the 19th century. One of which, and I do think different historians, art historians, disagree on the significance, how much this event impacted art, but I'm inclined to think it impacted a whole lot. Okay, one is which the invention of the camera. So all of a sudden, artists, which for millennia, I think it's safe to say, the job of the kid who could draw good, like me and some of you, the kid who popped out drawing. We were the de facto cameras for the human race, right? That's just the way it was. We were cameras. Suddenly, we're overnight. Our centuries, at least, long role is overturned by this little box with a lens and a few buttons. All right, so we lose our job. No longer are we needed. Now, we can still act like cameras, of course, but we're not needed. And even to this very day, hyper-realist painters are free to do their hyper-realism, but even so, nobody, you couldn't take a hyper-realistic painting into a court of law and say we snapped a picture of the perpetrator in action, and show the judge a painting. It's not going to fly, right? So nobody in our culture confuses photography with painting, no matter how good the painting is. So we are no longer the camera, all right? And then a whole bunch of other things happened. The age of revolution, the French Revolution, the American Revolution, and so forth. And then in the West, I'm only talking in the West here. I have no idea what's going on in the East. Not my job at the moment. That's not the subject at hand. But the age of revolution, and frankly, the age of Karl Marx, and the age of Charles Darwin, a whole bunch of social and aesthetic upheaval. And I think that it was in the early 20th century that the human race really did go through this cataclysmic, as far as art goes, cataclysmic lesson, if I can call it that. And you actually hear me reflecting on this shift, this revolution, all the time. When I say a good art journey is this: we spend the first half of our journey learning to paint stuff that looks like stuff, and we spend the second half of our journey learning how to paint stuff that looks like paint. Now, when I say that, I am so much the child of the 20th century, because I think that transition, that learning curve, if you will, that mindset switch was huge and hugely important. So since we are no longer required to be cameras, and since we really can't be cameras if we want to, nobody will trust an artist, no matter how photorealistic they are. Nobody will trust an artist the way they trust a camera, and rightly so. So we lost our role. Then what are we to do? And the answer is, We're to do paintings. Again, so you've heard me, perhaps, if you're a regular, you've heard me. If you're not, stick around, you'll hear it. Our job is not, in my opinion, and I am right, our job is not to paint party pictures. A party picture, and again, I'm pronouncing it horribly on purpose, simply to make it sort of grate in your ears a little bit and help you remember it just a little bit. Oh, thanks, everybody says. Thanks for doing that. You're welcome. All right, so our job is no longer to paint party pictures. A party picture, let me define that briefly. A party picture is a scene. Let's take landscape, for instance. A party picture is a sunset or a sunrise and a beautiful lake reflecting the sunrise and some beautiful trees and a beautiful path or road or a creek or a stream or a river leading into the party lake. Actually leading out of it probably, but you know what I mean, visually. Are you beginning to see what I mean by party picture? And it's got a boy or two or a girl sitting on a dock with a dog and a cabin with rustic shingle roof, maybe a log cabin with logs and beautiful glow light coming out from the log cabin, and maybe a stone bridge and maybe an evergreen tree with Christmas lights in it. Okay, all right, have you gotten the idea? Okay, party picture is, if it's a still life, a party picture consists of beautiful, 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 beautiful roses. And the more accurately they're painted, the better, because a rose is a rose is a rose. Who can make anything more beautiful than a rose? Okay, so that's in still life. When it comes to pictures of people, well, try not to get, what's the word? A party picture is a beautiful woman, preferably scantily clad or completely unclad. Now, I want to be real careful here because I support the painting of beautiful classic nudes. I am not so fired up about the painting of my own personal erotic pornography. And some of you women, by the way, you look at some paintings done by really famous painters, well, medium famous painters, and you scratch your head and you say, I'm not sure this is art. I think this might be something a little more prurient. I'm chuckling because I want to tell you women, because some of you have never heard an artist say it. You're dang right. That's what's going on. Way too often. An artist is catching his jollies, painting hot babes, semi-clad. Way more provocative than unclad is semi-clad, anyway. And some of you women in particular have suspected as much, but you've hated to say anything because you were afraid that, well, it's art, you know. These artists, you know, they're different than the rest of us. And we are. But there are nudes, and then there are erotica nudes. All right, and some women, you just need to go, I knew it, because you did, and you're right. So, no. And I'm not even making a moral judgment. I feel a certain way, as you can probably imagine, about such endeavors. But even apart, it just, frankly, just you should know, yeah, that those are guys, and I'm trying not to be crude, you know? Those are guys getting their rocks off, painting their own personal pornography. And you suspected as much. Now, not all of them. In fact, frankly, 99% of men and women who do female nudes, that is not what they're doing. But the most popular ones on YouTube, oh, that is what they're doing. And I'm speaking way too flippantly here. I'm going to get in trouble. Somebody's going to take me to task. All right, go ahead, take me to task. But some of you women are going, dang, I knew it. I'm just affirming that, yes, your suspicions are correct. How do I know I'm correct? Because I'm a guy. Doggone it. I know what guys think. Oh, anyway. How did I get into that? Oh, yeah, so beautiful, pretty pictures. Beautiful rose, beautiful landscape, beautiful naked woman, or mostly partly naked woman. Now, of course, I'm being silly. Portrait could just be a handsome, and yeah, if it's a pretty picture, in fact, that's a good analogy. If it's a pretty picture, it's a beautiful face, or perhaps, the old wrinkly grandmother, grandfather, wise sage or Indian chief, but still pretty. When I talk that way about real painting versus pretty picture painting, that could only happen in the post-20th century. You with me? Because in the 20th century, we learned, the whole human race in the West had to learn that the artist's proper role was not being a camera and painting pretty pictures, but was applying paint to canvas. Are you with me? We all, in the West, we all had to learn. It was painful and it was bloody sometimes, but we had to learn that painting is about paint, not about pretty pictures. And that's what a lot of the modern painters were really trying to convey with their abstract painting. So one of the tools that they used a whole lot to convey this reality, to get this point across, was flat, opaque paint. Because you see, before the 19th and early 20th century, artists for centuries, as you've heard me say, artists for centuries had been creating the illusion of depth in their paintings. Are you with me? They had been creating the illusion of depth, and one of their primary tools for doing so was transparent layers of paint. You with me? So when Velázquez wanted to create depth in his paintings, same as Rembrandt and a whole bunch of other great painters, they would employ layers of transparent color. So in the 20th century, you see, the whole human race, in the West anyway, was learning, oh, no, the canvas is not a magic window into an alternate reality, which is another way of describing pretty picture painting. Another way to say that is the canvas is a magic window. I call it the magic window school of painting. Many people, of course, still do it. All the people that do pretty pictures, they subscribe to the magic window school of painting. And so we all had to learn that the canvas is flat. That was one of the rallying cries of the 20th century. The canvas is flat. And to make sure that that was obvious and clear and make the point with multiple exclamation points behind it, all the artists went to painting with opaque paint instead of transparent paint. So that's why 90% of all contemporary painters, when they sit down to do a painting, even traditional representational painters like myself, most of them use opaque colors because that's what they learned from their art professors. Because their art professors, who are now dead and gone, rest their souls, were all part swept up in the 20th century mantra, the canvas is flat, the canvas is flat. And most of them were not philosophers, they were just people trying to learn how to paint. So they didn't get into philosophical depth the way I've just done with you. They just said, no, if you want to paint, you use opaque colors. No, you don't use transparent colors, you use opaque colors. Anyway, so that's why the 20th century gave rise to the universal use of opaque color, because we were all learning that the canvas is flat. Whoops, hang on a second. And I sure hope I'm thinking while I'm doing all this blathering to you guys. I think I am. I think I'm thinking. I thought I was thinking. You ever had that experience when you're painting? You're painting along, and you think you're thinking, and then all of a sudden something happens. Your eyes open and you go, oh my goodness, what was I thinking? Well, precisely, you weren't. For a minute there, you slipped into mindless brushing, paint the barn thinking, I typically call it. We don't want to paint the barn. That's when you stop thinking and you just fill in the blanks, fill in the, color, paint by number. Yeah, I think it's going okay. I've got a lot of sameness, same color in here that I need to come back and do light, slightly lighter on top of it. You know that principle. I'm going to start with the stuff I just put down. All right, and a whole bunch of chats here. You guys are not holding back tonight. Oh my goodness. It's going to take me an hour to read all this stuff. Hello, Redina. I'll say hi, Muskie. Redina says her friends are forcing her to watch me to make her rest. Well, glad to be of service, my dear. Glad to be of service. Redina in beautiful, phooey. What's the name of the town? Something River, British Columbia. All I need to do is say British Columbia, and that just about says it all. To this day, the most spectacular mountains I've ever seen, British Columbia. All right, what else? Hey, John Rope, haven't heard from you in a while. Good to have you on board. And Susan says, hey, Dan, yep, that is me, psychologically putting a boot in Dan's back. Paint better. Thank you, Susan. Appreciate it. Joanne says, I don't know about the other Denistas out, but I quite like the pencil. Of course, I will leave the class immediately. Prof. I love it. Barbara, did everyone paint today? That's right. That's a good question. Did everyone paint? Muskie is standing convicted. Don't sign on to my video if you don't want to get asked if you painted today. That's funny. Susan, music first. That's hilarious. So you're a musician and art is the hobby. Is that right, Susan? I think you've told us this before. Yeah, boy, I can relate to that, because for me, it's exactly the opposite. It's art first, music second. So when I go home tonight, and it does get kind of challenging. If I don't get home till 10 o'clock, I need to do an hour of trumpet practice at 10 o'clock. That's when everybody wish I played, electric guitar. Why? Because you can play it through headphones and play it quietly. I do play electric guitar, but Anyway, I play at a whole bunch of instruments, but I work at trumpet. Trumpet is the one instrument. There's, if somebody tells you they played, oh, I play the trumpet, and you say, really, when's the last time you practiced? Some of you have heard this joke. And if their answer isn't yesterday or today, then you say, oh, I see, you used to play the trumpet. That's how wicked the trumpet is. Top level violin is the same way. Well, so are several instruments, but the small mouthpiece brass and violin near the top of that. Flute maybe as well. There's some instruments where you can not play for a week or 2 or 3 and you won't have dexterity, but you can make a socially acceptable sound. Trumpet, that's not the case. You won't have dexterity, but you can't even make a socially acceptable sound if you haven't practiced for a week. Oh my goodness, believe me, I've done it. Oh, horrible. Some of my worst memories in my music life are when I had to play and wasn't in shape. Anyway, Susan, what do you play? I know that you're way down. Okay, let me scroll down here through these chats. Do you guys want to see me while I'm reading your chats, leaning over here? Foxwell Willie, there's that white van again. That is so funny. and that's so funny too, because I was really thankful for the parking place, of course. That's my van, y'all. You know that. And I was really thankful for the parking place, but honestly, it's not a very attractive vehicle. It's practical, but I would rather have it parked one, down so that some nice little car can park here. That is so funny. Radina, yeah, somebody's trying to keep you from painting, evidently, huh? You know what, Radina? Radina brings up a really, really good point, and one that's always in the back of my mind, because I do, of course, you regulars know, I repeat myself all the time, and I try to do it in interesting ways. But she does make a good point. I mean, how many times did I hear some really earth-shattering foundational principle of painting that I needed to hear, but I wasn't at a place where I was ready to hear it yet? Yeah. And that really that's human nature, isn't it? That's the way we operate. All of a sudden, I'm not happy with the blue in these windows. Here we go. I'm going to live dangerously here for a minute. I'm going to try to violate my own principle, sort of. Okay, here it is. I'm going to try to, I think they need to be darker, and they need lighter on them too, but darker first. I'm going to try to darken them, which you're not supposed to do. You're not supposed they're wet. It's very wet. So I can't do a glaze on top, because the glaze it wouldn't be a glaze, it would just pick up what's there. All right, so in a way I'm cheating, because I'm painting dark on top of light. Opaque dark, I mean. But in a way I'm not cheating, because the paint that's here is still very, very wet. Does that make sense? So this, I'm glad this happened, because I don't remember this ever happening on camera before. Can you darken a color while it's still wet? And the answer is yes, or you can get away with a lot more, because see, now I'm just mixing color right on the canvas. So hopefully, so to speak, people won't be able to tell that I've done dark on top of light, because I'm mixing it up. I think it's dangerous, but I think I'm getting away with it. Now that I've done it that color, I don't like that color either. It's too intense. All right, so here we go. I can do the same thing again with a duller color. So I just picked up some my favorite color killer color, which is raw umber, which typically in most manufacturers, and I think it's supposed to be this way, raw umber is actually darker than burnt umber. So that's completely the opposite of what you expect. And you've heard me talk before that for me, a student grade raw umber is actually perfect because the pigment count, the pigment density is fairly low. So I can sort of paint carelessly, one might say, or without, I don't want to be careful about how much paint I'm putting in my brush when I'm doing this. I just want to be able to dip and slap. All right, that's getting better. I do like that better. But now that I've done that, come over here. I'm going to do a similar thing over here. Once again, wet in wet. And yes, for in both cases, in these windows and in these, the principle I am not going to violate is, yes, I'm going to come back with light, a lighter blue after doing this dark. I think that's better. Oh yeah, much better. This still might be, anyway, I won't worry about it for now. That's close enough. Tomorrow, hopefully, I have a couple different jobs on commissions at home that I'm excited about getting to. One is a portrait. Oh, and I can't wait to get working on a portrait. Okay, before I leave, but I do hope to finish this painting tomorrow because I can't finish it tonight because I won't be able to do the final glaze tonight, right? It has to be dry before I do that final glaze. Okay, so now I've got a lighter blue, not too intense. Thank you, sir. Not too intense. Really, my whole life. Yeah. My dad was a good painter, so I have good excuses, or I have no excuse. It's this view right here. Let me zoom in again so you guys can see a little bit better. So I've got a dull, dirty blue, as I often call this kind of thing, with a fair amount of yellow ochre in it. So it's tending a little bit toward green, and I call the well, it's not just I'm right. Greenish blue is a warm blue. A purplish blue is a cooler blue, and there are some people out there that do have those backwards because they think, well, if you add red to a blue, isn't that making it warmer? The answer is yes. But what it comes down to, which is warmer, red or yellow? And if your eyes screwed on right, you know that yellow is warmer than red, generally speaking. Anyway, that's as far as I want to go with that argument. All right, I really won't know what's going on here. This window has black trim, this has white. Oh, but wait a minute, before people, hello.
Hi.
Please, walk right up and watch.
I will.
Good.
This is beautiful.
Thank you. I appreciate that. The trim on this window over here is shiny dark brown, which means that it's reflecting a lot of blue sky. So I've really got to get the right color. The reflection is very dull blue. So more raw umber to the rescue. Yeah, there we go. Whoops. Almost painted the lamp post this color. That wouldn't do. All right, let me talk about, again, I talk about this a lot, but it's still one, as Radina would say, the last time we said it, some of you weren't ready to hear it. I'm particularly fired up about this because it was either...
You're ambidextrous. It's beautiful.
I am, thank you.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
Is that like, did you teach yourself that? Or did
Yes,
you...
to be ambidextrous?
Yeah.
What a great question. Yes.
You did?
Exactly, and not till late in life. I mean, I was 50 before I started
Okay.
forcing myself
To do that.
to use both hands.
Awesome.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Now I think everybody should do it.
I agree. I'd love to be the ambidextrous. Me too. We'll start.
Well, I paint better. It's like I feel like...
We're a hairstylist, and that would be a huge
yeah.
help.
Well, wait, you can't do scissors with both hands. Oh, you have to...
We would love to learn, though. Yeah.
You'd have to have a different pair of
haircuts
scissors.
twice as quick.
Good to see ya. You'd have to have a different pair of scissors, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Left-handed
We'll have
scissors.
two scissors, like...
But you guys do use both your hands
Yeah,
a lot
we
of the
do.
time, don't you?
Yeah. I do things
There's
the
something-
opposite of what I would if I were... Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, all musicians will use two hands.
It's
Think
true.
about it.
That is
And really good basketball players and athletes use two hands.
It's true.
Yeah.
Artists just thought they got a pass.
It's true.
And I don't think that anymore. I think everybody should do two hands. Because it uses, I mean, my brain literally feels different.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
sometimes,
Teaching yourself something.
sometimes when I'm painting, I'd be holding like a phone that has a picture on it, you know? So I'm going like this or painting like this. And after a few minutes, it's just like, it just drives me, because I can't stand painting with one hand anymore.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny?
You're like, I need my other hand to do some artwork.
That's right. So where do y'all work? On the street
We
or
were
far away?
down the road.
On Hillsborough Street,
Hillsborough.
Meraki Salon.
Is it
on
not walking
Ash.
distance though? No, no. That's,
You could walk.
yeah,
there.
you could.
if you wanted
But if
to.
it's on
I'm gonna
Hillsborough.
do a
Yeah.
20-minute walk.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I did it earlier. That's a really awesome line with the left hand.
I know.
I can paint somewhat.
There we go. That's looking good now. It's looking like the object. I'll get back to what I was going to say in a minute here. I don't want to launch into a great tirade when I've got an audience at hand. So put on your seatbelts. There's a tirade coming.
That was after they drug us out. She drug us out.
I don't remember. I got home. And I went to bed. I got up the next morning. It's gonna break.
I think, well, I've got this very dull color on my dull blue. Oh, no, it's not dull enough. I mean, it's not light enough. Let me make this slightly lighter.
How are you, Dan?
I'm
Just
very
talk to
good.
you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Beautiful as always.
Please do. Thank you.
How are you?
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You've been working on that one for a while.
I
It's
have.
gorgeous.
I was out here last Wednesday and a great big storm blew up. In fact, a man walked up to me. I was out there happily painting and he said, "You know a storm's coming, right?" And I didn't. I was clueless. Whew. So I started packing up a minute later and just made it. So, yeah, I would.
It is gorgeous.
Oh, thank you. Do I have your window in this painting?
You do. That window is right there. I already got it. We're good. Got that
We're
window
good.
Right there, not floor.
Would you like me to put you in it waving?
Yes, please. Well, my skills. I have skills in this window. Just very faintly. All right, friend. It was good to see
Good to see you.
This is my other friend who I'm trying to talk into getting one of your paintings.
Oh, excellent.
I stopped
Good.
on the street a while
Did you
back.
really? What's your
Nice-
name?
Benton.
Hi, Benton. Good
Nice
to
to
meet
see
you.
you.
It's going to happen.
Oh, good. Good.
I love
Thank
your
you.
work.
These are
Thank you. Thank you.
No, she's got to buy it for me.
That's fun. All right. So, was it last night? Anyway, either last night or this morning. You know, I was on YouTube doing business, and of course YouTube suggests videos at you, and says, maybe you watch this. So I clicked on it. And believe me, the person I watched, I'm not going to be so rude as to tell you his name. I've already told you there, it's a man, young man. And again, YouTube is full of this stuff. He was doing a purdy picture. I mean, I just about described it just a few minutes ago when I described what a purdy picture is. Sunset, a lake, a path, a dock, 2 boys and a dog, and a log cabin with beautiful trees and light coming out of the windows. It was just the quintessential purdy picture. And he painted the whole thing with, frankly, tiny little brushes. He painted, of course, with one hand. It was just, it kind of made me laugh, except that he had, 200,000 subscribers and 500,000 views on this particular video. And it took him 60 hours just to do the underpainting, he said. And it kind of made me laugh, kind of made me cry. But I thought of all the people who were watching this kid paint. He was kind of like Bob Ross, only 100 times slower. Nothing wrong with being slower than Bob Ross, believe me. But it was just purdy pictures. I mean, my pronunciation is getting even worse as my irritation grows. He was painting purdy pictures. And while I was watching, I just imagined somebody asking me. Thankfully, it didn't happen. I could imagine somebody asked me, "So, is this guy a good painter?" And I was imagining myself, coming momentarily, losing my self-control, going, "No, he's doing everything that I preach against." So there you go. Viva la différence, eh? We can all be whatever we are. We're not all supposed to be the same. But please don't paint like him. Oh my goodness. Now I have hope for him because he's young. And he's clearly in the first half of life. The tragedy is with 500,000 views and 200,000 subscribers, the likelihood of them busting out of the first half of life is not all that great, because he's getting so many attaboys and accolades for doing his horrible painting. I mean, I'm not kidding. I'm sorry, you don't need to, but it was this. It was just hours and hours and hours of this. Now, okay, maybe sometimes it was this, but no, it was pretty much this. One hand, so it drove me crazy just to watch him. But I thought of all the poor, influenceable people that he might be ruining because he's so popular. And it really is a mystery. Why is he so popular? And I think it's because, of course, and now you're thinking, oh, sure, Nelson, just sour grapes. That's all this is. That's all this is. And I say to you, maybe. I'm not above having clay feet. Besides, clay feet are better for stomping the grapes. Oh boy, I don't know what that means. I'm being silly. But it really, I would just sat there with my mouth hanging open and my hand in front of my mouth like, this is amazing. It was almost as if he had watched some of my videos and decided to do a spoof. Now I know he's never watched my videos. If he has, he hasn't learned anything. Oh boy, I hope David's not watching. You'll see, there he goes, that arrogant thing again. Anyway, don't paint like that, friends. No. Okay, no. Let me correct that. Do paint like that for a little while, okay? It's okay for this young man to paint this way, but he should get over it. Hello. And he really should get over it because his painting will most certainly not stand the test of time. It will be a laughing stock within 50 years, I fear. Be nice if I'm wrong, but I really am afraid that it, as my 36-year-old daughter said about a Robert Wood painting, ooh, Goodwill. Would you like a bookmark?
I'm gonna buy it.
Oh,
You
good.
like it.
Thank you. Thank you.
They're beautiful.
Thank you. Okay, I keep thinking I'm going to get over here. And okay, I still have hours to go. Let me come back and read some of your comments now. I have to go find out where I left off. Foxhole Willie, got to quote you again. He said at 5:36, this is an hour ago, good grief. The only issue I have with correcting someone better than me is finding such a person. That's hilarious. Thank you. Thank you, Foxhole Willie. Okay, I didn't get very far, did I? Hello.
How are you?
I'm very good, thank you.
How long have you been working with that piece?
Oh, way too long. This is my third evening setting up down here. Now, the last time I came, last Wednesday, a great big storm blew up, so I had to back up and run home early. So
So you've been working on that 3 days, you say?
yeah. Well, okay, total hours
Yeah, total hours.
7.5.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Beautiful, bro.
that's a little bit slow. I'm dogging it.
So what would you sell that for?
Actually, I would sell this one for $800.
Nice.
In a gallery, my paintings that size are $2,400.
Yeah.
But that's why I got out of all galleries, so I can sell for whatever I want.
Right.
That's beautiful, bro.
Thank you, thank you.
Not bad for 8 hours worth of work, bro.
Yeah. Well, if it sells, if they all
It
sold.
will sell, bro. It's gonna sell high.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Where are you from originally?
Canada,
Canada?
Michigan,
How long you been in Carolina?
30 years.
Oh, you from Carolina?
About as longer than you.
That long as me.
How long? Where are you from?
Oxford, North Carolina.
Oh, really?
But I lived in Raleigh. I moved here 40 years ago.
Did you really? And you're from Oxford. I heard an artist say it a joke. He said he was studying to teach at Oxford,
Right.
North Carolina. Said I'm going to use that joke. Good to meet you, folks. All right, I do feel like I'm dogging it on this painting. My goodness, it's taking forever. And part of it is I keep wanting to go back and read your chat. I'm going to read this. Tonight when I go to bed, I'm going to read all of your chats to my wife. These are just a hoot. You guys, you know you're in trouble when you're broadcasting so often and your cadre of followers is so small that they all know each other by name and greet each other and talk without you getting involved at all. Oh, Hannah Simmons, you don't say much. Good to have you on board. That's an old comment, I know. Good job, Hannah Simmons. Excellent point about transparent darks. You're exactly correct. Your darks become rich when you do it in transparent. Transparent or translucent. Translucent is good too. Translucent is a second best to transparent. I do a lot of translucent painting as well. Good question. All right, let me just skip through a bunch. This is all so fun, but moving countries, Hannah. Wow. Stockholm. Oh my goodness. Oh my, are you serious? Art supplies are expensive? Bless your heart. I do know that is one thing that us Yanks so much take for granted. I know we do. Art supplies. I don't know if it's this cheap in any other country, but when I've traveled, it's like, yikes. Oh, anyway, Stockholm, that sounds like a fantastic place to paint, though. Anna, you love it. Going back to my comment about nudes and see what all the fun is. Oh. Now, one thing, oh, no, I don't know if I want to get into this or not. One thing I didn't say about the nudes, and I love some of, I don't know if you guys, any of you have caught my, some of you have, my anatomy, I call it Anatomy Masters, where I'm at home in my studio and I teach how to draw the human figure, which I just love doing. And part of the reason I expect eventually to have hundreds of videos in that series, partly because it helps me myself. It's a good refresher for me. But anyway, in the classical learning how to paint the human figure world, if you will, I'm a huge advocate of learning the male first and the female second, which of course is the opposite of what most people do. And again, I mean, the human in my worldview, the human female figure is the zenith, the apex, the climax, the as good as humanity gets. But the male is the essential human, if you will. So that's, I like to irritate women by, they think I'm going to say, I say that the essence of humanity is the male. What? They get all mad, because that's sounds very sexist. But then I follow it up. The essence is the male, but the climax, the zenith, the absolute ultimate in human is the female. And as you can tell, I'm one of those who actually believes that the two are different. I'm sorry, evidently I can't even say it with a straight face. Oh boy, oh man, okay, never mind. That's as far as I'm going to go in that one at the moment, but there is no question in my mind that the day will come that our descendants will laugh at us this season we're going through. Now, not to saying that there weren't some rectifications, some corrections that we needed to go through as a race. We did in the West, but anyway. All right, so learn to draw the male, because if you can master the male, then you can switch to the female. Doesn't work the other way around. If you master the female, you're lost as a goose on the male, but the other way around works. So most of my anatomy drawing focuses on the female, but not because I don't believe that it focuses on the male. I'm sorry, most of my anatomy lessons focus on the male, but not because I don't believe that the female is where we actually want to go, so to speak. Again, in spite of what I talked about, it sounded like I was rather prudish a while ago, perhaps, but no, the nude female is the ultimate in many respects. All right, let me. Oh, Hannah asked a very good question up here. Could I have wiped that off and then glazed? I did consider that. The problem is, because everything out here is wet, it'd be very hard. I'd have to do some very surgical wiping, which would be difficult, time consuming, and of questionable efficiency is what I want to say, I guess. So, good question, yes. And that did cross my mind when I stumbled on that problem a while ago. Let me see, other good comments. Yeah, good job, Susan. I like your description of layers and trees. Huh, Jake, painting and music related. Major chords are primaries, minor chords are more muted colors. Yeah, huh, interesting. Possibly, yeah. How about relating it to values? Are major tonality, no. I think a major tonality would be contrast, lights and darks. I would think minor tonality would be the muted mid-range. I could think of a monochromatic muted painting. I'm not sure. We're just making stuff up, aren't we? Good, Radina, good eye. You didn't like him either. My Windows, that is. Purple over green, great cast shadows. That is exactly correct. Susan hopes David isn't watching. Yeah, but he might watch later, so he'll catch us. David, if you're not here, we're up to no good. And somebody, Susan said that guy that had 60 hours, is he teaching the first hafters? Yeah, very, exactly. Very, very, is that who's, well, certainly somebody, if, I don't know if it's artists watching him. See, I think in his case, it's probably non-artists watching him, I think, more than anything. And they feel like they can relate to what he's doing because it makes perfect sense for them, because he's just painting, you know, pretty pictures. So easy to understand, doesn't require any interpretation. Ice cream flavors. That's good. Okay, somebody, who was it? Radina, yeah. No, I just throw my painting in the back of the van. As long as it doesn't have something poking the back of it, it's okay. Usually it's okay. I'm gonna start tackling some of this stuff down here. This is definitely one of those paintings where I'm going to be glad that I have a whole, you know, second day glaze to do on it, because I feel like there's a lot of stuff. I'm generally happy with that. Let me zoom you guys in. I know you're awfully far away. Nice shot of my bald forehead there. Yeah. I can do a lot of glow on these two. I should really stand back and look at this. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Certainly, what originally drew me to this scene, and I'm doing it twice now. Barbara passed, got the first one, and it arrived safely. By the way, evidently, Barbara, evidently, I have never shipped a painting quite that large. I didn't realize yours. That was 30 by 40, and the task fell mostly to my wife, bless her heart, to get that shipped, and it took like 2 days, you know, wrangling with the post office to figure out how to do it. It went post office parcel select, they call it. And cost a bit more than I expected. I'm not complaining, Barbara. Just for what it's worth, I'll tell the rest of you, because I may not offer to do it for free. From North Carolina to Ohio, in like 4 days, 4 days, I think, was basically $100. And of course, that compared to $300 on FedEx. And I've complained to you guys before, but you weren't listening, that I think FedEx and UPS both, they won't ship, and I can understand why they have this policy, but it irritates the fire out of somebody like me. They won't ship paintings unless you use their packaging. Now, of course, and again, I know exactly how they got there because they shipped years ago, somebody's painting, you can just see how this happened. They shipped somebody's painting and the customer built the box, and then it didn't survive. And then they had this big stinky mess where, they had to, the customer had it insured, but UPS said, well, dag, we would have, UPS or FedEx said, we wouldn't have insured it if we'd known you were packaged it so crappy, blah, blah, blah. So they had to invent their own boxes, right? Which of course is, and yet,
Add it again.
I-
Get you in action.
okay, good. And yet, my box beats the heck out of theirs.
$1.
Anyway, glad it got there safely, Barbara. So just point of reference. Which one? I have one here. Do you want a little one? Here's a.
Yes, that one. But I took all my money out and put it in my backpack in the car today. I don't know why.
Oh darn!
I
There's an ATM right around here somewhere.
Are you on social media?
I am. Yes, ma'am. I'm on
Where's your
YouTube
name?
right now.
Are you on
I'm
YouTube?
broadcasting on
Are you
YouTube
on
right
live?
now. I am. Yes. Would you like?
Hi.
wait. There you go. There you go. There you go.
Hi, join Faithful Walkers. Mondays and Wednesdays.
What is your name?
I'm Tammy.
Hi, Tammy. This is Tammy. This is my good
Yes.
friend Tammy.
He is awesome. Check out his artwork. Come and get it and join Faithful Walkers.
Thank you.
I hope you're down here again another
I
time.
will be. Thank you. I will be.
So I can, book
Thank
my-
you.
put my
Yeah.
kid in.
Thank you,
'Cause I want
Tammy.
that.
Good. Thank you. Bless you. Keep walking.
Thank you.
Oh, that was great. Want fun. Anyway, so this point of reference, I felt like I was getting off pretty good, but after we did some research, I was quite relieved that we could get it done for $100, Barbara. So, and I am not complaining. You know what I mean? I'm not complaining at all. But live and learn. Evidently, I hadn't done a 30 by 40 before. I thought I had. I shipped one painting to Norway. So Hannah, yeah, I could ship one to Sweden. Sweden isn't half as far away as Norway. Hannah, is it just me, or does it seem to you guys like, well, Finland, really, Finland, isn't it? Finland is like the end of the world. Is it? My wife and I, several years ago now, if you were to ask me, somebody asked me, please ask me, where's the most exotic place you've ever been? Well, actually, one of the most exotic is British Columbia. I already mentioned that. A nod to Redina and all of you Canucks up there. No, the most exotic place I'd say I've ever been, and a lot of times when people think exotic, they think of tropical. I don't. I'm sure I like the tropics just fine. But if I had a choice about taking a cruise, I've been on one cruise to the Bahamas, and I would choose a cruise to Alaska any day. Anyway, most exotic place I've ever been, Hannah, is Bornholm, part of Norway, an 8-hour ferry ride, overnight ferry ride, to the little tiny postage stamp size island of Bornholm, way up in the Baltic Sea. Little island with ruined Middle Ages castles on it, cobblestone streets, glass blowers, artisans, Scandinavian artisans all over the place. Boy, was that fun. Hey, this is looking better. This is looking better. Huh. There. Kind of like it. This area just took on a real whoops. Says my battery is going dead. How in the world can that? Hang on just a second, folks. I have to find out what's wrong with my battery. It's plugged in. It should be charging. Okay, time out. I need to. I guess I used up all of that battery pack. Okay, bear with me just a moment. Going to this strange white van that has stuff in it. Just for what it's worth, I come out when I paint like this. I'm armed with about 6 battery packs. I don't have any music playing today. Whoa. Ruh-roh. All right, are we back? All right, but I'm not getting any monitor. Hang on, let me see if I can fix that. Folks. Hello, rabbit dog. You're a new chatter. Do we have sound now? Okay, I think we do. Thank you. Sorry about that. Suddenly I discovered that my batteries were going dead. Dina asked a very good question related to mud and muddy painting is because your highlights are warm and your shadows are warm. I wouldn't call that muddy. I wouldn't call that a manifestation or a kind of mud, but I can imagine somebody else does, especially because one of my heroes, Richard Schmid, says that mud, and I think he's wrong about this, by the way. He's still one of my heroes, but I still think he's wrong. He says that mud is the misuse of temperature. So that's what Medina is referring to. Now, either I missed the page in his book, which I've got, crawling through at a snail's pace. Either I've missed the page where he explains more what he means by that, or he doesn't explain what he means by that. But he does say indeed that mud is related to temperature. And of course I respect him greatly, so I scratch my head and say, well, he must mean something good, something correct, but I haven't figured out what it is yet. By the way, little shout out to Richard Schmid. A couple years ago when I was working very hard on my book that has fallen off the wagon, I expect to pick it up at some point. The name of the book is Breakable Laws of Painting. And I was having a great time working on it a couple of years ago, and then I just haven't worked on it for the last couple. But big thanks to Richard Schmid and his daughter Molly, who, when I petitioned them, indeed gave me permission to use his works in my book. So raindrop. So I really, really do appreciate that. It's a generosity that he did not have to extend to me, but he did anyway. And for no other reason than that, I certainly hope to get the book published. By the way, the book is more likely now to be published as a video series than as a book. My wise mentor, author people said, listen, Dan, you're so good. He said, you're so good on good on camera, so just do it as a video, not as a book. More people are watching videos anyway. So I believe he's correct, and so I do hope to come up with a video series before I die, called The Breakable Laws of Painting. Hang on, it is raining just enough that I got to go get another umbrella. No, I'm gonna try. Hope it's not gonna get bad. I'm gonna try just adding at least one more umbrella.
Yeah.
What do you think? Is it coming?
No, I think it's this one. Hope we don't pull it down.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, keep the door open just in case you can snatch your pan and put it in there right quick.
Yeah. I'm gonna leave this door open.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Side, but I would leave it open. I do. I try anyway. Oh, yeah, okay.
Sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. I don't have a single bid on this painting yet.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I have a grocery bag. I'll give you guys a hat.
What's that?
It's a camera.
Oh, okay.
I'm actually broadcasting on YouTube right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I don't want my camera to get wet.
No, you don't.
But I
Now
want
it's
to
picking up a little bit.
see if I can. Oh, I don't know.
Picking up a little bit now.
Now it's just coming in as a mist. That's crazy, you guys. Oh. How fun, Barbara. Yeah, the joys of plein air painting. You got that right. So I wonder if I should just. Oh, sound. Can you hear me now? Yeah, darn that rain indeed. I think I have sound. Yeah, the monitor's working. Hi, David. We've been talking about you. Good to have you. About time you got here to defend yourself. Nothing serious. I was just making comments that could be construed as arrogant. I said, good thing David's not here. I wasn't really arrogant, you know. It just sounded that way. Oh, doggone it. And if I paint now, it's got to be with one hand, which, as you know, I mean, I could switch and hold the umbrella with my left hand, which would be pretty. I mean, with my right hand, which would be pretty awkward. Okay. Whoops. Okay, hang on. There's a little piece of plastic. The joys of plein air painting, indeed. But I do have.
I thought he was doing a portrait of me.
I do have a pair of scissors here.
Like he was Moses. You're like,
All right. Let's see if we can paint any more. Even just a little bit more. Oh, and the umbrellas are not even up. So
they let me off
when it
more
comes to
like
painting umbrellas,
but it might be
very much on my own. I'd love to get some of this done though, because so much of this painting, it just is the one that Barbara got. It's basically the same scene, just on a horizontal format.
That's right.
So much of this scene hinges on the luminosity, the blueness of these blue umbrellas. So my thinking for this painting, by the way, am I pointed the right way? Oh, barely, hardly. Sorry about that. All right, there we go. Whoops. Hang on, I'll get there yet. Is light and dark, not dark, but muted. Bright and muted might be a better term for it. And that's what I'm hoping to make much fun. P, by the way, this is the word Pepsi. And I want it to be barely legible. Pepsi, and then the Pepsi logo left of the third one. Again, barely legible. Barely. It's not slipping into penmanship. Here's a funny, can you see me? I think you can. When I was doing the fuzz layer a couple stages ago, I thought I was going crazy making this blue, go up into the surrounding colors. I thought it was plenty messy. But here, now that I'm actually painting the intense blue, I'm finding there wasn't enough blue escaping into the surrounding colors. So there you go. Again, for me, what a learning curve. The fuzz layer has become. Even the last week when I was doing it, I thought, oh, that's plenty messy. then now that I'm doing the hard edge stuff, I go, oh, it's not messy enough. In other words, there wasn't enough of a glow. There wasn't enough of the bright blue. And I'm glad for all that what is there. But even that, it wasn't quite enough escaping, enough color escaping to satisfy me anyway. And I speak like most of you as a recovering tidy. I'm like most of you. I'm a recovering tight painter. Some of you have heard my story. My good friend David Stickle. If you haven't looked him up, do yourself a favor. He's a good personal friend, but now that we're not in the same gallery at all, we don't see each other very often at all. For a number of years, we were in a gallery in Cary, North Carolina, and just had a great time. And two things. Number one, I tell you, I've told you often that when I'm saying all these terrible things about tight painters, and I say it's the first half of life, we're second half of life, and so on and so forth, and I told you that the ghost of David Stickle is always hanging over my shoulder when I say all that stuff, because he's an extremely tight watercolor painter, super realistic. Although I must say quickly, because he would want to say, he would say no, and rightly so, and he's a master painter, so there's no way I'm criticizing him, but I don't want to paint like him anyway. He would say his stuff is not realistic because he plays with reflection. I mean, he's like the master of reflection, like reflection in glass, in particular. Anyway, we were in the same gallery for a number of years. Many times I pointed at his paintings and would smart aleckly, and I turned that into an adverb. I would smart aleckly point at his paintings and say, I used to paint like that, and then I took pills and got over it. Yuck, yuck, yuck. And it was mildly amusing because there's a degree of truth in it, because I did in fact used to paint, much more tight and realistically. So that's the joke, if you will, that I was reflecting when I said that, and I think he knew that. And then one time when I said that, he pointed at one of my paintings across the room, and I've told you this before, I just got to tell it again. He pointed at my paintings and said, yeah, well, I used to paint like that. Of course, I was in 6th grade. Oh, that was the funniest. As you can see, I thought that was funny. As you can hear, I thought that was hilarious. He said, David, don't you ever stop saying that joke. That is so funny. Because he was probably worried about whether it offended me. Not even close. Oh, it was hilarious anyway. So, for some reason I was getting on that subject. And I forgot what it was. Well, maybe that's all. I just wanted to tell you that joke. Yeah, that's right. I was saying I am, like many of you, I am a recovering tidy. I'm a recovering tight painter. Almost everything you see me do has been a consequence of that journey. And of course, I don't apologize for my journey a bit. I think it's one that almost everybody should have. If you're lucky enough to have a good journey, it will be the one I described. You start out, first half journey, paint stuff that looks like stuff. Like the young man I was describing earlier, whose video I watched, who painted pretty pictures. He was doing a good job of painting pretty pictures. It's so funny, there was a day that I would have been darn impressed with his. I thought, oh man, I should do that. I should paint that picture. Honestly, there was a time, not too many decades ago, that I would have thought, ooh, I should painting just like that. Because I did plenty just like that. the sunset at the cabin in the woods and the glow coming out of it, and all of that was not wasted. That was not wasted time. Anyway, there, I've done that path enough times. Hey, put this other umbrella down. You know, a lot of times when it rains, a little bit of rain is just a warm-up prelude to a whole bunch of rain, right? So, there's still a breeze coming in as if it's telling me to pack up. Just don't know. Right. Hello, Benji Perez. Uh-oh, bad sound, eh? Okay, hang on. Is it still bad? It might be we switched sound. And Uncle 60, the sound filters you sent me were for plugging into a wall. I need a sound filter. Hang on. Oh, I know what has happened. Hello. Hi. Got dead battery. Big crisis. Emergency. Thank you.
How long have you been working on it?
I think about 7 hours. Too long.
Hey, New York takes time.
I'm really, yeah, I know. It's not supposed to take quite that long, but it did. All right, are we here? We are. Thank you, gang. Sorry about that. Again, nothing wrong with me that a good production assistant wouldn't fix. So I didn't realize that my microphone batteries had died, dead. So sorry about that. Whew. Yeah, find one you like. You can tell that they're paintings that I've cut up, right?
Yeah.
Hey, recycle reuse.
That's right. All right, are we back, gang? All right, one thing I want to, before I do the blue underside of these umbrellas, I need to do the the bracing. And I wonder where my photograph went. Oh well, I'm not going to waste time looking for it. I know pretty well what it looked like.
You want this one?
You could just put it in the bucket. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
David says there's some windows on the left, wrong perspective. You might be right. Probably are. I know I'm pushing it, the perspective that is. And I looked at it upside down, backwards, sideways, and I decided I could get away with it. Sort of an exaggerated perspective. Of course, I might be wrong. My decision might be incorrect, but that's what I decided, so I hope I'm right. It's going to stay that way for the moment anyway, and probably throughout. But yeah, there's no question I'm exaggerating perspective there. So the two colors the umbrellas made, the darker blue underneath and the lighter blue on top, were a big part of what caught my eye with this scene.
That was the day we rented. Very pretty.
Thank you. I'm also taking some liberties with the shapes of these umbrellas, and I hope that's not overdoing it too. I don't think so. The 3 window to the left of the streetlight. To the left by the streetlight. Yes, yes, yes. These street, right? I think those are the ones. One of you, I forget, was Susan, was it you? I think sent me a link to a teaching on YouTube, a drawing teacher. They taught on perspective, and I heard some things, I mentioned this last week because I heard some things I'd never heard taught before. And I think one of them was called perceptive. That was the idea. I'm not sure I'm using the right word. Perceptive perspective. Forgive me if I'm getting it wrong. Susan, you can chime in if you're still here. Was that you, or and if it wasn't you, whoever did send it to me, it's one of my regulars. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting. Talked about something that I've done many times over the years, and but you know, always felt mildly guilty, if you will, or like I knew that I was fudging. Yeah, Susan. It was Drawing Academy. I think it had the word Academy in it. And it looked to me like it was from the same people that produced Painting Academy. That's a bunch of, looks to me like old Chinese, not Japanese, Chinese men. And they're very good. I'm saying that with the utmost of respect. It's a really excellently done. Anyway, I think it was called Perceptive Perspective. And it was really where many times you leave the mathematical perfection aside, because in fact, you know, linear perspective is in itself, linear perspective is a cheat, right? Because we're actually surrounded by an orb around, we're inside a sphere, and when we do linear perspective, we're like flattening out the globe. We're artificially flattening out the sphere in front of us onto a picture plane, and there are parts of it, especially the closer you get to the edges, the more contorted that flattening effect becomes. And so there are many times, I would say many, or sometimes, maybe it's more appropriate, there's sometimes when doing linear perspective, you actually want to cheat the math, so to speak, because if you do it literally linearly, it will look phony. So you can cheat, especially around the edges. And I think that's what I'm doing here. That's what I'm trying to do here anyway. I'm exaggerating slightly the the third point perspective, which is 10 feet over my head up there. All right, so I hope you saw enough of that painting. I'm just, by the way, I'm going to do, here's a fan brush. Don't do too much of this, but you can do some. You can get away with some. That's sort of that's the rule, by the way, which I have not done my Bob Ross brush tricks video yet. That's high on my list of things I want to do just for fun. But I'll give you the bottom line is everybody should know the Bob Ross brush tricks. They don't belong to him, of course. They're just popular. People say, how did he do such a beautiful painting in 23 minutes or whatever it was? And the answer is brush tricks. And they are tricks that you all painters should know. Everybody should know them. The difference is you use them with much more discretion, much in a more limited manner than Bob did. You can do one or two doinky, maybe three, to be that pine tree, but you don't want to do what he did and go and make a pine tree, or take the knife and go and make a mountain. You can do it a couple times, but not 3 times. So it's sort of a matter of how much you can get away with. I'm standing back and looking. One of the things I want to have, again, the same as I did on Barb's painting, the first one I did, I just want to have some of this blue from the umbrellas. But that was a Kincaid, was it? Because I was just fuzzing, right? I was just fuzzing. Doinky. Yeah. The sounds of sirens. Wasn't that a famous song, Simon and Garfunkel? Song of Sirens. Hello, darkness, my old friend. Da, 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 da. And the sound of sirens. All right. I think I've dodged the rain, I think. Oh my goodness. Hang on, gang. You hang on. There's some gorgeous sun stuff happening after all these. It's been cloudy all day here. And after a day full of cloudy, I've got some gorgeous, forgive me, I need to go take some pictures. Hope this camera's still on. Yep. Oh my goodness. Bear with me. Sorry I've walked away. I've abandoned you all. Turning on my Pro HDR app late in the day. Light effects. Beautiful, beautiful. I'm also out in the middle of the street, risking life and limb to catch these pictures. Is my phone flashing? Oh God. Okay, bear with me just another minute or two. I'm walking across the street now. I do like having a generous supply of really good photographs for either that cold winter day or the rainy or hot summer day or whatever, when I can't get out and paint en plein air. I sure do like having some good photographs. Okay, just one more, I think. All right, thank you. Sorry about that break. I'm going to take this umbrella down now. And I'll leave it right here just in case I need to grab it quickly. And I'm glad I remembered to do this. When the sun goes down, I need to dim my light so that I don't end up doing a painting that's too bright, too dark, too dim, because the light on my canvas was too bright. It's 8:30. I'm just doing some really abstract blue stuff down here. So I really want to pull the blue from the umbrellas down. That's nice. Let me back up for a minute so you guys can see, back you up so you can see maybe the whole painting. Oh, you can't, my light's in the way. No, okay, hang on. You can see it, but from an angle. All right, just to, yeah, well, that blue made this blue made a, of course, as I knew it would, it's always been in my mind, a thing that was going to happen, but now that it's done, it's like, oh yeah, okay, whew. I think the painting is shaping up. one of the things I've said lately a couple times is on this whole mindset that interesting marks, the essence of good painting is making interesting marks. There's no rule anywhere that says that whatever mark your brush happens to make, like first time around, that you have to stick with it. In other words, you're certainly welcome, it's a good idea, to mess up, mark up, smear, mess up. And you probably all know this already, but still, it's worth repeating because I want to say it. Because I want to hear myself say it, is what I mean. Because I need to remember this. It's okay to you could almost say second guess your brush strokes, but I don't really mean second guess. I just mean it's a really good idea to come back and do a second hit on your brush strokes. I know I've certainly been encouraged in that regard. I don't go nearly as far as he does, and maybe I should. But Jeremy Mann, another one of my painters whose work I admire so much, Jeremy Mann, I understand does, and I've never seen him paint. I would love to. I've had friends who've gone, watched him paint, but he uses evidently squeegees and all kinds of other things, rollers, I think.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Well, hello. Do you work down here?
I was just hanging out.
Were you really? What fun. Good to see you. Are you by yourself?
Yeah. I was just coming to say hey.
I'm glad you did. Thank you. What fun. So I've been out here for a couple hours now, dodging rainstorms.
Yeah.
We've two. I've had to run for cover twice.
Oh,
Good to see you. Pardon? Pardon?
Are you stopping for?
No.
He said you're stopping. You might take a break.
I might take a break. That would be a good idea.
How soon?
But I won't. I'll just take a break and then start broadcasting again. Yeah. No, I'll be here for another hour.
Okay.
It's good to see you. Anyway, and that's sort of what I'm doing actually right here, right now, still, is coming back and modifying. Now, let me hasten to say, this is not, see, I feel like what I'm doing right now could easily be misunderstood as, and probably the word second guessing was a poor choice of words. I think what I'm doing right now could be misunderstood as what I call henpecky, born out of insecurity, uncertainty. No, yeah, so you don't want that. And or another, when in doubt, just do some brushy, and that is, as you probably know, I'm death on that idea. No. Do not just brushy. So, what's the difference between what I'm doing and brushy? Well, most of what I'm doing, even though I'm coming back and hitting like the tops of these umbrellas at the moment a second time, my strokes are still strokey, for want of a better term. I'm leaving distinct marks. I'm not smudging the paint out. In fact, if anything, clearly, I'm actually making the brush strokes even more pronounced than they were. Okay, so there you go, that's right. So I'm making the abstractness of the strokes even more pronounced than they were. There you go. And that's what a typical beginner would have a hard time doing. again, because of their insecurity, because they're not sure what a good brush stroke looks like, they're more likely to go smudgy, 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 instead of what I'm trying to do here, which is the opposite of smudgy, smudgy. I'm actually making the paint even more streaky, if you will, than it was just a few minutes ago. Does that make sense? So don't stay away from smudgy, smudgy. I'm actually making my marks even more pronounced, more abstract. And also, by the way, I'm also shifting the value here. I've decided I could go essentially lighter on these umbrella tops. Yeah, stay away from smudgy. Instead, you actually, most of the time, you want to make your marks even more strokey, streaky, more strongly outlined. Again, that's the history of human movement. Human beings like to see that a human being, someone like them, with arms and legs just like them, arms and hands, I suppose I should say, has been here and made these marks. All right, let me stop there and stand back and look. Yeah, I think I like that all right. Now that I've made the top lighter, now I find I can come in underneath and make the underside of the umbrellas lighter as well, which is what I really want to do deep down with all my heart. I know I'm ignoring you, all you guys and all your wonderful chats. I hope you're entertaining each other. Uncle 60 says the hard line edge on the red-orange building near the right side brick queons and yellow building needs fuzz. Let me get that again. The hard edge line on the red-orange building, oh, get this one. Oh, near the right side. Uh-oh. Is that here? No, hang on. Uncle 60, I'm gonna need your help. The hard line edge on the red-orange building near the right side. Is that here? There, I just did it with my finger. I'm open to that. All right, let me go back to some. And let me scroll down a little bit, see what else you guys are saying to me here. You get to look at the back of my head while I do this. Back the camera a bit. Okay, I can do that. Now let me redirect you. Okay, is that all right? You're seeing most of the painting. You're seeing a whole lot of other stuff too. David says that little orange roof structure. Is it this one where the perspective goes different than it is here? I know you guys are telling me something good. And I'm not seeing it yet. I can see a discrepancy between these lines and this line. Well, here, coincidentally, there's actually a blue line along the top of that building. It would be nice to catch. And I just changed the perspective. That's screaming out loud. can't be that bright. I'm happy to mess it up though. All right, thank you for your help. I'll try to figure that out later. Uncle 60, your wife makes a lot of appearances on our broadcast. Does she know that? She's a major player in our daily conversations. You drag her in. Oh boy. Wow, you guys, a cool front blew in here on Saturday, two days ago. And I thought it was going to be like just, and then back to 90 degrees by today. But it's not. And now it must be, 72 degrees or something really cool here for summertime. I know, Radina, 72 is like the tropics compared to where you are probably, huh? I grew up in Michigan, and especially northern Michigan, not northern lower peninsula, for those of you who know that part of the country. Thank you.
Can I have a card?
Oh, please. Oh.
I feel like I've seen
There we go.
I've seen your
Absolutely.
work before, I just don't know where.
In some building, in one of these buildings. Do you go in any one of these?
Oh, yeah, all the time. I love that color of blue.
Oh, thank you.
I'm so glad to see you out here.
Oh,
doing
thank
that.
you. What's your name?
Amanda.
Hi, Amanda. Good to meet you.
Yeah.
Do you work here somewhere?
I teach at the Y.
Oh, do
1 day
you?
a week. I teach aerial yoga, yeah.
Oh, good for you. Good for you.
Wow.
Good.
Look your stuff up.
We like the Y. We had one of our youngest son worked at the Y for 9 years, way up north,
Do you do this
and met his
for-
wife at the Y. In fact.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You do this for entertainment? 'Cause
No.
No.
Oh, do I? Yeah,
I
yeah.
hired a bunch.
Yes.
For the convention center.
I'm sorry. I thought no. This is my job. What I'm doing now.
No, but like we hired a bunch of artists to come in and do stuff. But like this would be so cool to just. I'm gonna contact you.
Okay, please do.
I do a lot of events. I'm an event
Excellent.
coordinator. Oh wow,
Yes, I do that a lot.
this is great. I won't interrupt you.
Okay,
anymore.
no problem. Thanks, Amanda. Good to meet you.
So good.
Thank you. And that, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, I don't know if anything will come of that, but that's part of the reason why I paint on the street. I mean, I love painting street scenes. That comes first. You have to love cityscapes. But then as far as marketing goes, it turns out, oh, that's a really good idea. And those, you regulars, I guess you know this now, but in the last couple of years I've gotten away from this, painting a lot downtown. So what you've seen in the last 4.5 weeks is me in my old stomping grounds. And I gotta tell you, boy, does it feel good to be back. I read a book several years ago. You can Google it, because I'm not going to get the title right. It's called Quiet. Yeah, exactly. The Simple Art of Networking. You got to be there. You got to be present. Exactly. Quiet. If you just look up a book title, but there's a subtitle. Something. How to be an introvert, or the power of an introvert, or something like that, in a world that can't stop talking. It was a brilliant book. And if you're an introvert, as I am, and if you are an introvert, as I am, you're laughing your head off right now because you're saying, "What? You are not an introvert." Okay, don't try that with me. It's already been done. I've already been laughed at by introverts worse than you. But it is true. I'm an introvert. But what I was going to say, same temperature there. Wow. One part of this book in particular, the whole thing, I felt like she was reading my mail. She explained so much of my life. She made sense of so much of my history when I read this book. So if you're an introvert, you need to think about reading this book. The world is controlled by extroverts, so to speak. And in fact, I don't think she said this, I think somebody else said this, that the economic crash of 2007-8 was caused because of all the big mouth extroverts that didn't pay enough attention to the introverts that were trying to warn them. Now, of course, who knows? How can you prove that? But it's a pretty interesting thesis. Anyway, the part of the book that I was going to reference is a chapter or more. She talks about how different personalities function most effectively in different environments. Some people need a fairly high, or not need, but they're most efficient, most productive, truly most productive when there's a lot of energy going on. Other people who hate the cubicle system, other people want a door closed, there's no music playing, they want dead silence, and they can just cruise, and they just get a ton done in a quiet, undisturbed environment. And there's a whole sliding scale. It goes all the way. Some people want heavy metal, rock and roll, and beach balls, and craziness going on, and they're really productive. That's crazy. Then again, other people that want absolute dead silence everywhere in between. So when I read this, again, it was like, oh my goodness. Well, that explains me. And part of what is interesting about this part of her thesis, is that particular scale is not directly related to introversion. It's related, but it's not like, oh, quiet people like quiet and noisy people like, that was not the truth. That is not the case. It's more complicated than that. And some quiet people actually function quite well in an environment of fairly high energy. And that's actually me. And that's part of the reason why you guys are here. And that's part of the reason, for instance, and I've mentioned this before, when I'm at home painting all by myself, when I'm not broadcasting, which of course doesn't happen that much anymore because I'm always broadcasting, I don't listen to music really very much when I'm at home painting, believe it or not. And when I do listen to music, it's very quiet music. I do not need energetic music. So there you go. Why? I can't explain that. I can almost do that new age hum kind of stuff, I just need a real, and we're all different, and that's just okay. But I don't play music because I'd rather have a higher level of energy, intellectual energy. That is to say, so I love podcasts. Now, I used to do books on tape back in the 90s. You remember those? Remember tapes? And I used to just love, I went through so much good literature and all kinds of stuff back in the 90s, working by myself. And I had no idea that one of the things that I was doing was I was getting my environment up, for me, to a fairly high level of energy, which again does not correlate to the fact that I'm an introvert. I mean, it's not, I am an introvert essentially. Again, you introverts are laughing at me. But what is the case is that I groove, to use old language, I function pretty well when there's quite a bit of energy around me, but I don't have to interact with it. I mean, I enjoy when people come up and chat, but that doesn't help my productivity. What helps is just when people are walking by. Like, for instance, I enjoy working in a coffee shop. Starbucks, sit in a corner, draw, and there's all this hubbub around me, but it doesn't have anything to do with me. Anyway, I just found that was really interesting, and it's kind of related to what I'm doing out here. That the energy, people walking by, noise, not sirens. That's a little bit too much energy. But some of you, especially you introverts, I used to call myself I am old, Regina. That's because it takes one to know one, right? That'd be rude to say to a woman. I used to call myself a high-functioning introvert. Then I had a lady who is a professional personality. She goes around and is a consultant for businesses and helps businesses, learn how to play well and operate well and so on and so forth. Boy, she rebuked the heck out of me because she said you're treating being an introvert as though it's like a handicap. So, and I went, oh yeah, I guess I am. So she said, no, don't say you're a high functioning introvert. So I had to change my vocabulary. So I don't know what I am, but I am an introvert. And but I have this screw loose where I love to have your company when I paint. So go figure, even though there's not thousands of you, a dozen or two. Whoa! There goes my monitor. By the way, I usually wear my monitor opposite side of whatever side the camera's on. So you can't see it, so you don't know I've got it in my ear. All right. Really, you rarely get snow. Hey, Franz, good to have you. Oh boy. Oh, my leaves have already started dropping. Yeah, oh yeah. I remember that. I really did enjoy living up north. I enjoy living where I do now. No question about it. But I never got tired of snow, just the beauty of snow. I got tired of the danger and the work, but never got tired of the beauty. That I'm sure many of you are the same way. The other things, not so much. But I did get tired of snow like in April and May, in Minnesota especially. Grew up in Michigan, spent 3 years over in Minnesota. Winters are not as pleasant there. A lot more, less snow and more blow. All right, you guys. I am happy to say I'm liking the painting. What I'm not liking is how doggone long it's taking me to get it done. Oh well, stop talking and keep painting. It's only, what time is it? My watch says it's coming up on 8 o'clock. Is that correct? I feel like it's 10 o'clock. I know it's not. Anyway, somebody want to tell me, is my watch correct? Or did my watch stop an hour ago? Nobody's going to answer that stupid question. All right, Boyle and Pierce. Here we go. Here's a funny conundrum, by the way. I haven't showed you guys the view here for a long time. Let me point you that way. It's, as you can see, it's quite dark out here now. Not at all like the paint, like the painting. Here's a funny conundrum. Oh, now that. And those, David says, Euridini, you are exactly correct. I was born in Hamilton, near Niagara Falls, and as my mom likes to point out, you know, a whole bunch of Canada there is like south of Detroit, Michigan. Okay, David says those umbrellas will have a reflection on the lower window as well. Oh, good point. Yeah, especially over here, right? So look forward to adding some of that. Okay, here's the conundrum I wanted to tell you about. There are two principles. I have to get the little hand put back on this watch. There are two principles. One principle says darks first, lights last. So that's what I'm doing right here. You know, dark sign with white letters. And actually they're lit up. The other times that I've been here, the light was turned on, and of course I'm going to paint it as if the light were on. But there's another principle that says, whenever possible, paint in the negative. That is to say, instead of painting these little letters, which are on top of the dark background, you want to finish by painting the dark around the white letters. Now that's contrary. That's second half of the journey painting. You know, somebody who's doing realism will go, what? Why would you do that? Okay, so that's because they don't understand some of the essence of painting. Well, those two principles are at odds with each other. One principle says darks first, lights last, which is what I'm doing right now. But the other principle says, no, the last touch, the last hit, so to speak, on those letters, if you want them to look cool, should not be the little details on top of the dark. It should be dark on top of the details, or background on top of the object, so to speak. And here, the object is the letters, the background is the dark. You with me? And whenever possible, you want to do the PEAC. You want to do the background last. Well, whoops, here I'm not, that's the wrong word. It's not the word piece, it's the word pierce. Stop bothering me while I'm trying to paint. So you can't do both. There's some wind, y'all hear that? So you can't do both. So what do? The answer is, real quick, is you go back and forth a couple of times. Probably the principle that will PEARC, the principle that will trump, that will have the higher priority is darks first, lights last. That's probably the one that will get the final word, so to speak. But just the way that is right now, that's a little bit too fastidious, a little bit too neat. In fact, so I'm going to go ahead and, hello.
Hey,
I'm going to go ahead right now, actually, and fix that, or work on it right now, so you can see. I know I'm backed out really far. Old British joke. Got to get the small hand put back on this watch. Gonna mix up here some dark, dark black, trying to make it not too blacky. So I want it dark, not too black. And now I'm going to paint around these letters with dark transparent. And really, the goal here is not to make them even neater than they already are. They're almost too neat as they are right now. So I want to paint a little bit messy. How messy? Oh, that's intuitive. Hard to say. Just want to try to hit the sweet spot and make them a little bit more abstract. And then I'll probably come back one more time with some white highlights, some little specks of white. Now, maybe some of you new people, you might be saying, wait, I don't get it. Why do you want to paint the background, in this case, the dark sign, the black, almost black sign, after you paint the white letters? I don't get it. That's completely illogical. Correct. Okay, if you're paying attention, you should be saying that's completely illogical. If you're not paying attention, you're just going, yeah, oh yeah, that's what I would have done. Okay, so I'll try to explain that real quickly. I'll explain it so quickly that you won't necessarily believe me, because I'm not going to spend a lot of time defending it. Everybody knows that the light letters here are on top of the dark sign, that they're the object closer to us. The signs here, the letters are an inch. They're neon letters, right? Everybody knows it, and I'm saying everybody knows when really not everybody does. But anyway, I'm telling you, normally. Same thing is true with sky holes in trees, which we should call tree holes, as you know. Why do we do tree holes? Why don't we paint the sky first and then just paint the tree on top of it the way it is in nature? Well, the answer is because that's the way it is in nature. So when you paint contrary to the reality, the brain, the mind, the eye is momentarily wiggled and jiggled and tickled inside her. Our mind is momentarily surprised or confused even. Because, again, everybody knows, so to speak, everybody knows that the black sign is further away than the neon letters. But when a person looks at the painting, and you guys are probably too far away to discern this, but when a person looks at the painting and sees that the dark paint is in front of or on top of the white letters, did you catch that? Oh darn, there's a mistake. Hang on. When the viewer sees that the black paint, dark paint was put on after the white paint, their brain goes just like that. Okay, did you catch that? You want to hear it again? The brain has a momentary flutter of confusion, is what I like to call it. But believe it or not, here's the key point. That moment, and then confusion, and then resolution. That moment of confusion feels like pleasure. It's aesthetic pleasure. It's a momentary. So you see, some aesthetics are sort of almost operate on a different planet than many other things in our brain. Visual pleasure, visual aesthetics. What gives our brain or our mind that flutter of confusion? I'm not exactly sure, but I know for very sure that it works. There are a lot of other things like this in art. But anyway, that's the short answer to that question. And if you're new to my channel and you're not convinced by that explanation, then just stick around. You'll see it and hear it, and you'll begin to see it enough times. After a while you go, oh, you know what, that's right. It's related to, David, could you take a picture of your whole setup so we can see all the umbrella and everything you got there? Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah, David, I'll try to remember to do that, and then I'll post it on the community channel. Yeah, good idea. Not today, not tonight, because it's dark out here. But yeah, that would be worth seeing. It's certainly the end of it's not the end, I hope, but it's certainly the result of a very long evolutionary process of equipment. This is essentially a store-bought easel, but it's been very heavily modified, of course, by myself over the years. And yeah, I'd be glad to show you. I've given video tours on occasion, but it's a good idea to have a still photograph. And one of the things that I'm actually using at the moment is there's a box down there, a nice wooden oak, stained shellac polyurethane box, and it was originally built to hold a car battery, because that was before these lights were invented. And the car battery had a very nice secondary effect, and that was the weight of it, being 65 or 70 pounds, was ballast. And like even right now, I don't know if you can hear it, but there's enough of a wind going on here that's like, so at the moment I have that battery, which I keep in my van. and I still sometimes use it. And it used to run a big sound system, you know, a Passport sound system, if somebody knows what that is. And the sound system weighed 70 or 80 pounds too. That was for my bigger easel. My next bigger one. All right, I've got just a little bit more energy, so I'll keep going. But I have a feeling that I probably should start thinking about packing up, simply because I don't want to go to paint to the point of stupid. You know what I mean? I want to stop before I start making really bad decisions. David says, too late. Thanks, David. All right, so there's some street lights. When you scratch like that, I know I say everything before. If you overdo it, you can just take your finger and just, you know, because all this paint is wet, you just take it and diminish a little bit of what was overdone. So I feel pretty free to do that kind of scratching, knowing if I make a mark I don't like, which doesn't usually happen, by the way. Why? Because I'm making that mark with joy, strength, enthusiasm, you know, confidence, and so forth. So usually those marks made in that manner almost always turn out good, look good. All right, now down here, this will be, am I still on camera? Yeah. Here's where, you know, I'm gonna, by the way, before somebody nails me on this, I'm gonna go ahead and plead guilty without some astute person. In fact, last week I was out, one of my recent paintings, I don't think it was this one, and they said, well, you know, if the sky was that light, you know, would the lights on the cars be that bright or something like that? And I went, wow, I don't usually run into that degree of astute observation. So as I was starting to say, I will tell you that I'm doing a cheat. Now, forgive me, I'm going to drive some of you crazy again. It's a big time Thomas Kincaid cheat. And I sort of would say the same thing about Bob Ross. Everybody should know the, there you go. I'm going to do 2 videos. Oh, it's starting to rain out here, guys. I need to do Bob Ross brush tricks, and I need to do Thomas Kincaid light tricks, because everybody should know, because he was really good at what he did. Okay, don't be an idiot. Don't be envious. Don't turn up your nose like an artistic snob unless you're a better painter than he is. And I hate to break it to you, but you're not. He was a really good painter. Now, what he decided to do with his, you know, he painted purdy pictures, right? That's his business. Anyway, so I don't like the anti-Thomas Kincaid snobbery. I know what you're saying. We don't like the sentimental. But anyway, don't say that so much that you're so stupid, so to speak. I don't mean you guys. Don't say that so much that you don't learn what you coulda, shoulda, woulda learned from his tricks. All right, so I'm using the Thomas Kincaid trick. One of the major tricks was unrealistic, way too multiple light sources. Like he had sky, light source, sparkly twinkly lights, light source, lights in windows, light source, you know, reflection off the bells on the horse's bridle, light source, stuff like that. Really unrealistic. But don't turn up your nose too quickly. You need to know those tricks, and then most of the time you need to not overdo it, maybe as much as he did. Does that make sense? Just like Bob Ross. Know those tricks, just don't overdo them to the extent that he did. But anyway, I will tell you that this versus this, is unrealistic. But who the heck cares? We're not aiming at realism here. But I don't want to overdo it, so to speak, to the degree typically that Thomas Kincaid did. And you'll be happy to know there's not going to be a horse and buggy or Christmas lights down here. I hadn't even thought about doing candles. Anyway, but this right here especially, are you with me? That's, let me stand back. I want to go there, I really do. I just don't want to overgo there. I'm making up words. I think I'm liking that. Let me zoom in just for a second. I think I'm liking that right now. No, I am. I don't want to I don't want to continue this all the way across. So I'm thinking this will be the most intense indoor light coming out, and then it'll diminish as we go this way. To what extent, what color, and so on. Right now, this is all very muted, too muted. That's good. It sets up for this. Anyway, that's the what is unrealistic is. Radina asks, what are you saying, pick a focal point? It's related to that, Radina, exactly. That's not what I was saying, but that's a good point. Yeah, it's absolutely related to that. In fact, one of the, a related subject is picking your light source. There has to be, okay, this is what you're getting at, Radina. There must be a clearly dominant light source and secondary. All right, and after all the work that I've done up here on the top of the painting, this is my dominant light. In other words, my dominant light source is sky hitting these buildings. So everything down here, that's a good way to put it, Radina. Thank you for prying it out of me. So everything down here needs to be secondary up there. I don't want the lighting down here to compete. I want this to be muted. And this is a little beyond muted, right? But I think I can get away with it. I think I can get away with that as long as I don't carry it out like Thomas Kincaid. And I say that with great affection, you know. By the way, one time, years and 20 or more years ago, when Thomas Kincaid first exploded on the scene, I was quite intrigued. First, like most Americans, when I first saw him, I was a little disappointed years later when I found him still doing the same thing over and over and over again. But in one of his galleries here in Raleigh, they had an original of his. Of course, it cost $1 million. No, not $1 million, but it was very expensive. But they had a little, like 9 by 12, plain old plein air painting. A mountain, the little article beside it, of course, and it was a plein air painting. And seeing that painting went a long ways to, what's the word, shifting my opinion about Thomas Kincaid. So, like I said, dang, he was a good painter. So don't be such a snob until you get better than him. Don't be such a snob that and I'm not talking to you guys, but you know it's out there. Don't be such a snob that you don't learn what you should be learning from him. Same thing, like I said, the same thing from Bob Ross. You should learn all those tricks. Just don't use them to the extent or the degree that Bob Ross did. But you should know them. All right. Hey, I'm actually enjoying what I just did in the last few minutes with this dull green. And here, liking that quite a bit. I'm going to pick up some orange. So certainly, the colors that are already on the canvas in the painting are guiding me a great deal. Ooh, that is nice. Wow, that was a lucky stroke right there. Kind of I don't even know what color it is. Olive green, I guess. Very dull. It looks a whole lot brighter on here than it does on my palette. But yeah, I think that's what I'm after, is what I just did right there. And there's all kinds of room in here for broken color, secondary, not secondary, crazy color, surprising color. Right now I'm missing up something that is pure mauve. I think I usually used to pronounce that word mauve, and then I think I learned that was not correct. Mauve, brownish purple. So, you know, there's that covers a lot. That covers a lot of territory. Brownish purple. But anyway, what I'm using right now, I think is classic mauve, and it's just right in there. Okay, I'm in danger now. Hang on. I'm in danger of getting dotified. A little bit too many hard edges. Easy fix. Just come in here and exercise some anti-dotification, or de-dotification. That's what we call it. De-dotification. Which is one of my continual weaknesses is I love playing putting abstract stuff. Hey, David. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. You know what? I think, well, I've got a little bit more I can do. I feel like I'm at a point now that I'm like reaching the danger zone. Let's pack it up. I know you guys all said don't quit. Yeah, but I gotta quit. The only thing I'm disappointed is how far I didn't get on this painting. Okay, now this right here that I'm doing is a very distinctive architectural element on that building behind me, and I think it's that little rhythm right there. I think is worth capturing, and it's the kind of thing that people who know our main street will go, oh yeah, that's right. You know, if I didn't put it in there, they wouldn't notice. But I think that's a nice little touch. So I'm going to leave that there. So I think I should probably pack up here pretty soon. I say that as I mix up another color, so that I don't go too far. I'm truly disappointed that this painting is going to take another whole, outing, or maybe not down here, but I didn't even get to the point necessarily where I can glaze it. Well, you know what? Probably what I will do, same thing I did with the eagle last week, by the way. Painted most of Thursday. Wanted to get to the point that on Friday all I had to do was glaze and go. Same thing here. Tomorrow, even though all of this down here is not done, I will glaze everything and then hope to finish this area, without going into an additional day. Let me show you guys what's happening down here again. This has just gotten a whole lot nicer. I didn't do this exactly on purpose. Hey, Redina. Oh, yeah, Redina, don't stop there. Just reading your chat about what advice do I have for that you get stuck in the ugly stage. Redina, I don't know. Make a brass plaque, and here's what your brass plaque. Put it on and it says, a painting is not done till it's done. And until it's done, it's not done. Or painting ain't finished till it's finished. And until it's finished, it ain't finished. Yeah. Don't judge with final eyes a painting that isn't final. And I say that a lot because I need to say that to myself. You just march through. I don't know. I mean, I hope watching me is encouraging you somewhat in that regard, that just keep on pressing through because it's not done yet. When you find yourself going through hell, don't stop. It's like a life lesson, isn't it? I like what's happening here. This is completely unfinished, but one of the things that's happening down here, the painting is getting more and more abstract the further down I get. And I kind of like that. And I want to keep this dark and abstract, but people. So I'm going to do more work on the people, but try to really hold back, really hold back, and not get too realistic down here. All right, I'm mixing up a whole bunch of random colors, see if I get something I like. Proof, by the way, here I was mixing island. Proof that mud has absolutely nothing to do with color. Muddy colors are fine. There's no such thing, so to speak. There's no such thing as a muddy color. Every muddy color is perfect in its right spot. Mud is not color. Because, I mean, if there was, this would be the worst color in the world right now. But mud is not related to color. All right. I keep saying I'm going to quit. And my little in-ear monitor is about to die on me. So I will use that as encouragement to go. Thank you guys. I think I got all your chats there. We all have the ugly stage. I think that's true. I mean, the only people that don't are people that don't know how to paint, because they start and go across like this. That's a crazy way to paint. We did that in the first half of our journey. Hey man.
How are you doing that, man?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, you working on the Portland Heights Pierce building?
Yep.
Looks good, man.
Thank you. All right, you guys, I'm going to say goodbye to you. Thanks so much. Love your company. Bye-bye.